I swear, it started with the loudest crunch I'd ever heard. I looked out my front window, and my heart stopped. My son's wheelchair, his custom, $8,000 electric wheelchair, was lying in pieces on the driveway. Crushed, mangled, destroyed. And standing over it like some kind of smug supervillain was Karen. Yep, that Karen, the HOA president, the same one who'd been bothering us since the day we moved in because we didn't fit the neighborhood aesthetic. Whatever the heck that meant. But this wasn't just some nasty letter on our doorstep. This was destruction. This was criminal. And the worst part, my 8-year-old son Jacob was sitting on the porch steps, silent, staring at the wreckage with big, tear-filled eyes. I ran outside so fast I nearly tripped on the edge of the sidewalk. "What did you do?" Karen didn't flinch. She crossed her arms and tilted her head with that fake little smile she always wore when she was being evil. "Oh, that thing," she said, pointing at the crumpled metal and wires. "It was blocking the sidewalk. I asked you 3 times to keep your clutter off HOA property." Clutter? I could feel the heat rising up my neck. My son's only way to get around. His independence. His life. She called it clutter? "You ran it over," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "You literally drove your car up the driveway and crushed it." Karen actually rolled her eyes. "Well, maybe don't leave expensive toys lying around. That's not my fault." It took everything in me not to scream. I looked over at Jacob again. His bottom lip was trembling. He didn't understand why someone would do something like this. And honestly, neither did I. But one thing was clear. I wasn't letting this slide. I didn't care who Karen knew on the HOA board. I didn't care how many lawyers she bragged about keeping on retainer. She had messed with the wrong family, and she had no idea what kind of laws she just broke. Because this wasn't just vandalism. This was a direct violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I was about to throw the entire law book straight at her smug little face. When I first called the police, I wasn't sure what to expect. I figured they'd come out, take a report, and maybe we'd get some kind of property damage charge on her. But when the officer walked up, and I showed him the remains of the chair, his whole demeanor changed. "Was someone in the chair when this happened?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "No, thank God," I said. "But my son, he was right there." She didn't even slow down. The officer crouched down, taking photos with his phone. He was careful, meticulous. He measured the tire tracks that clearly showed Karen's Lexus had rolled right up onto our driveway. Then he turned to Jacob, who was now sitting in his backup manual chair, one that barely fit him anymore. "You okay, buddy?" he asked gently. Jacob nodded, but he wouldn't look up. The officer stood back up and faced me. "You said the HOA president did this?" "Karen Madison," I said. "She's the one who's been harassing us since day one." "Does your son have any kind of medical diagnosis we can document?" I showed him the ADA paperwork we kept in a binder inside the house, just in case. It had everything: doctor's letters, equipment receipts, even a copy of the neighborhood's reasonable accommodations clause. The officer read it, nodded slowly, and then said the words that made my stomach drop and fist pump all at once. "This isn't just vandalism. This is a federal ADA violation." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said, "this isn't just going to be handled by local law enforcement. You're going to want to contact an attorney. A good one." So I did. And let me tell you, I found a shark. Her name was Marissa Grant, and the moment I walked into her office and showed her the pictures of the destroyed wheelchair, she actually muttered, "Oh my God," under her breath. She didn't waste time. "You're going to sue the HOA. Not just Karen personally. The whole association. Because if she was acting as HOA president when she did this, they're liable." I blinked. But she used her personal car. Marissa leaned forward. "Doesn't matter. She invoked HOA authority when she claimed she was enforcing sidewalk rules. That puts them on the hook." She started rattling off acronyms and laws I'd never heard of. Title III, Section 504, Disability Access Protections, Compensatory Damages, Punitive Damages. I didn't understand every word, but I understood one thing clearly. Karen was in deep trouble, and she didn't even know it yet. About a week after Karen's arrest, something unexpected happened. I got a letter. Not just any letter, a formal one, embossed with a seal. It came from the HOA board. At first, I thought it might be more legal nonsense. But when I opened it, I realized it was an apology. A real one. Signed by all 6 board members, except Karen. They acknowledged a severe lapse in oversight, expressed deep regret over the harm caused to my son, and offered to cover the cost of not just the wheelchair, but any therapy or mobility-related needs he might have in the future. They also added something that caught me totally off guard. They were dissolving the current HOA structure for a full audit and overhaul. I sat on the porch rereading the letter, stunned. After years of feeling like an outsider in this place, it finally felt like someone was listening, like we mattered. Then, as if life couldn't surprise me more, the doorbell rang. It was Sandra, one of the longtime residents who had lived 3 houses down for over 2 decades. She held a basket of muffins and a folded piece of paper. "I wanted to give this to you in person," she said. I opened the paper. It was a petition, signed by nearly 40 residents, asking the board to nominate me to a new advisory committee, a group focused on accessibility, inclusion, and fair treatment for everyone, regardless of age, race, or ability. "People are tired of the old ways," Sandra said. Karen ruled with fear. "You stood up. We saw it, and we're ready for something better." I didn't know what to say. For the first time since moving in, I didn't feel like the neighborhood outcast. I felt like part of a community. Jacob was watching from the window. When I turned and smiled, he gave me a little thumbs up. That night, I told him everything. About the petition, about the board's letter, about the community finally starting to turn the corner. He didn't say much, just asked if he could ride his new chair to school the next day. I nodded, and for the first time in weeks, he grinned. But just when I thought things were finally settling down, a familiar silver Lexus rolled past our house. I froze. My stomach tightened. Karen. She wasn't supposed to be out. Last I'd heard, the charges were serious. But there she was, sunglasses on, driving slow, like she was surveying a battlefield. She didn't stop, didn't wave, just drove on by. But I could tell this wasn't over for her. Not yet. The next morning, we woke up to find a deep scratch across the side of our new minivan. And not just a little one. This was deliberate. Deep. Zigzagged like someone had taken a key and tried to write something. Jacob noticed it first. "Daddy," he said quietly. "Someone hurt the car." And just like that, the calm shattered. We checked the doorbell cam. The footage was grainy, but you could make out a silhouette. Female. Tall. Hooded. Same time the Lexus had driven past. I called the cops again. They took a report, logged the footage, and assured us they'd keep a close eye on our street. But something in their tone told me they didn't expect to catch her in the act. That's when I made a decision. If the law couldn't keep her away, I would. I installed a security system, cameras with full-color night vision, motion alerts, and a direct feed to my phone. I posted signs everywhere. I even talked to a couple of the neighbors on our block, including the veteran down the street, who offered to keep an eye out. This wasn't just about safety now. It was about making sure she never got the chance to hurt my son again. The very next night, around 2:45 a.m., the camera caught her again. This time, she was in the yard, not on the sidewalk. In the yard, she crouched low, trying to avoid the cameras. She was holding something, looked like a spray can, probably paint. I didn't even hesitate. I hit the panic alarm for my phone and called 911. The sirens showed up in 3 minutes flat. They caught her red-handed. Literally. Red paint all over her hands, a half-finished slur written across our driveway, and one empty can tucked under her arm. She was still trying to yell that this was her First Amendment right when they cuffed her. But this time, the cops weren't polite. They knew who she was, and they weren't about to play around. She got hauled off again, but this time, the charges stacked higher. Trespassing, harassment, vandalism, violation of a protective order filed the week before. And because Jacob was sleeping in the house at the time, it counted as endangering a minor. It was almost surreal. This woman, who once sat at the top of our neighborhood, barking orders and hiding behind bylaws, was now a repeat offender with a mounting criminal record. And still, she just couldn't stop herself. Karen's second arrest sent shockwaves through the entire neighborhood. This wasn't just HOA drama anymore. It had turned into a full-blown criminal saga. The next morning, 3 news vans lined our street. One of them even caught footage of her being escorted from the police car into the station, red paint still on her sleeve, her hair a mess, shouting about witch hunts and neighborhood traitors. But the public had had enough. Comment sections exploded. Parents, disability rights advocates, even veterans groups weighed in, outraged that anyone, let alone someone in a leadership position, could repeatedly attack a child with special needs. Within a day, a disability rights nonprofit reached out to me. They wanted to feature Jacob's story in a campaign about awareness and accessibility, not for pity, but as a symbol of resilience, of standing up when you're pushed down. I talked it over with Jacob. He was hesitant at first, shy about cameras, but then he looked me in the eye and said, "Can I wear my superhero shirt for it?" I laughed. "You can wear whatever you want, buddy." The interview went viral almost instantly. Jacob's quiet strength, his smile, the way he described feeling small but fighting big. People loved it. Even schools started reaching out to us, asking if we'd come speak about kindness and inclusion. The best part, Jacob changed. He stood a little taller. He smiled more. He even told me he wanted to run for student council next year. "If Karen can try to be in charge," he said, "so can I. But for good stuff." In that moment, I realized something important. Karen hadn't broken us. She built us. Stronger, closer, unshakable. And on the day of her sentencing, when the judge handed down a 1-year sentence in county jail, plus mandatory psychological evaluation and 200 hours of community service, I didn't feel vengeful. I felt done. Done letting people like her intimidate families like ours. As we walked out of the courtroom, a reporter shouted, "Anything you want to say to Karen?" I looked at Jacob, who simply shook his head. So I smiled and said, "We're going home." Thank you all for sticking with us through this story. If you believe that kindness wins and justice matters, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more real stories that prove good people do fight back.